Well, live. I'm just going to do a quick sound check actually before we jump in. Well, live. Perfect. Cool. Today I want to talk about. For some reason, this doesn't connect to the NYM Club group, so I'm having to go in here and then share it. But they'll be inside the NYM Club group from from the next time. So frustrating, but we're here. Today I wanted to kind of talk about habit formation and habit change, right? So habit basically is a compromise. Awesome, Andrea. Hope you're going to tune in. Habit is a compromise effective between, oneself and the environment. And habits are generally behaviors that we repeat over and over again without actually thinking about them, like brushing the teeth before bed, eating dinner in front of the TV, which is something I always want to do. I did it as a kid, so it's become a habit. But there are also things that you can stop doing, or things you have stopped doing. Remember that gym membership that you started at the beginning of the year? You might be paying for. You haven't gone there for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Maybe you did something more rewarding, which was chilling, watching TV, or having a nap. That's more rewarding, right? It feels like it at the time. But they seem to happen sort of these habits without any forethought, right? But actually, in truth, they're formed because of a largely unconscious kind of multi-step mental process that happened for a reason. And the reason is your environment, right? Habits aren't good or bad. Habits are adaptive, right? You developed your habits because they did something good for you. And they helped you overcome something. And a habit generally is, something that you initially did just one time, but it helped you adapt to your environment in some way. And if you repeated that behavior and it continued to benefit you, your brain decided, as long as you're going to keep doing that over and over again, bite my nails, for example, when I'm nervous. I sometimes bite my nails, having a challenge of stopping that, or eating sweets when, for me, it's eating sweets when I play the computer. For you, it might be eating sweets when you read or study or whatever. The brain thinks, okay, let's put that on autopilot, right? And that's why changing habits is so difficult. Your brain likes to automate these processes because it takes less conscious energy to think about these things. They become deliberate processes. So let's say you're feeling stressed and you decide to eat some ice cream, right? It tastes really good. You forget about your stress for a while, actually bumps, the carbohydrates would kind of subdue your cortisol temporarily. Oh, fantastic. The brain's like, yes, that was effective stress relief. Yeah, let's do more of that. Next time you're stressed, boom. Hey, remember the ice cream? It's going to help. Remember last time? It's going to help you. Right. So this is really interesting. I think it is anyway. I mean, let me know if you do in the comments, because you eat ice cream again, and then obviously it has that beneficial effect on your stress, and then you're going to do it again and again and again, and it creates a habit. So whenever you feel stressed, you eat ice cream, and your brain doesn't have to think about it anymore. For you, it might be a glass of wine, right? So if you write this sort of, a mental program, it's you feel stressed, you reach for ice cream, your brain has less work to do. And, if we were trying to search for another example, let's say maybe you're a runner, I know Susan will watch this. And, you're used to doing 5Ks. Let's say you sprain your ankle. You have to stop running every morning. Your doctor said, now, don't go running. Probably physio would say that. Don't go running until your ankle's healed. So you kind of sleep in during your running time. Say you go to bed, say you wake up at 7 normally and run, but instead you sleep through that and get up at 8, right? Running was the habit. It's now been replaced with sleeping. And you might want to start running again when your ankle's healed, but your brain isn't thinking about the future or how beneficial exercise is to us, how it's good for the heart, how it's good for the joints, all that stuff. It doesn't think about it. So you get out of the exercise habit and you get into the sleeping habit. That's why when your ankle feels good again, it's going to be so difficult to start again. And in general, like a lot of our habits develop because of what causes us to feel pleasure or avoid pain in the moment. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comment section below, because I think, things like having a glass of wine every night while cooking dinner to unwind from a difficult day, or smoking in social situations if you go to a bar, or when you feel a bit nervous, if you want to smoke and that calms your nerves, like if you're getting sweets, from the vending machine at 3 p.m. after you sort of the energy levels dipped and you're looking for some craving. Yeah, they're going to help you relax. They're going to help you calm down. They might even perk you up if it's a cup of coffee, for example, at 10 a.m. It might actually feel better than you actually like. You might do that behavior. You might actually feel better than you had before. That positive reinforcement is really strong. It's actually even stronger than your knowledge that the habit, like it's stronger than you knowing this is bad for me. This has got negative health consequences. Maybe not now, but smoking, for example, this has negative consequences in 5, 10 years, 20 years, but it doesn't matter. Like, I know I'm feeling good right now. So these are the difficult ones to change. We don't like feeling uncomfortable, right? We are very simple organisms. We avoid pain. We seek pleasure. It's no surprise, really, right, that we've developed habits that do just that. But we've got brains that are capable as well, which is amazing, to perceive future consequences. And that lies the eternal conflict in the brain about habits, right? When you're trying to change a habit, you're trying to do things that require a monumental change to your brain. Your brain doesn't want change, right? It wants to stay just how it is. This is comfortable. This is fantastic. It's designed to stay that way for efficiency, all right? Because the brain is very energy expensive. It likes a lot of calories, and the brain seeks the path of least resistance. It's an expensive energy resource, so it will try and conserve that energy. So it will try and conserve the energy expenditure. So when you're trying to change a habit, you are effectively going against, your biology. And it's important to know, that's going to feel unnatural. And if you're struggling to break that habit, it's important to know it's not because you're a failure. It's because you are working against an ingrained habit that might have been there for months, years, decades even. So we need to start to rewire that. Right? Your brain doesn't care that you decided that you don't like the habit anymore. The brain's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. It's not optimized for this change. Right? When you change a habit, you're essentially saying, I don't want my brain to operate in the way it's meant to operate. I want to choose inefficiency, going against the grain of what's ingrained in, your neural pathways. And that's difficult. Obviously, that's where we come in. It's going against your biology in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it, as we clearly see in the program. Right? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it either. But how you work against your very, very smart brain, very, very powerful it is. Well, that's the one, because I think that you do it by using your brain. You fire up your executive function, this higher brain functions, this sort of neurofrontal cortex at the beginning that's responsible for future goals, right? And this higher brain, this neurofrontal cortex, that's the one that can change habits. That can, especially ones that aren't serving you, ones that aren't in line with your goals, with the person that you want to be. Now, right, let's talk about executive function, right? Let's take a look at the process of habit formation. Habits are embedded in what psychologists call scripts. And these scripts are formed through a process that we call the behavior chain. So once you understand how scripts and the behavior chain works, you can edit the scripts, you can reverse engineer the behavior chains to undo the habit you want to change, right? You also can use these kind of constructs to create new habits that you want to adopt, all right? So, well, firstly, with everything, you've got to become aware of your scripts. All right. If you say, little local theatre, that what a literal script does, it tells you what to say. Character Dorothy moves off stage to the left or something. It tells you your lines, tells you what to do during this particular performance. You rely on it. until you know, well, I know that so well. Right, you can repeat those lines without the script. Hence, that's what actors do. If you've got a little dancing scene or moving scene around the stage, you know those movements from memory. You know it without thinking about it. In psychology, a script tells you what to say and do, but the difference is you're the playwright. You're not just reading off someone else's script, right? And with your habits, behaviors, your scripts, you wrote that script that tells you what to do in those particular situations. You wrote the script that tells you what to do in those particular situations and means you can change the script, right? Just as we have, habits for a reason, we have scripts for a reason. And the brain loves scripts just as it loves habits, because brains are always trying to conserve energy, right? Those conscious thoughts and behaviors require a lot of energy, far more than the automatic thoughts and behaviors of brushing our teeth in the morning, which I hope you all do. I hope it's an ingrained behavior, right? And people have these scripts for many parts of their lives, right? Morning routine scripts, lunch scripts, work scripts, leisure time scripts, family dynamic scripts, evening routine scripts, plenty more. And the thing about these scripts are they're generally functional and useful in our lives. But if there's a habit that you want to change, you've got to rewrite that script. And one way to identify your scripts is to figure out where you've established, consciously or not, and if then routine, which is what we do a lot of time on the coaching calls, right? So a script is if something happens, then this, right? For example, if it's bedtime, I wash my face. I have a specific bedtime routine. So I wash my face with cleanser. Depending on the day, it's toner straight away, and then it's moisturizer straight away. Then I go to brushing my teeth, then it's off to bed. All right. That's mine. You would have yours, and I'm keen to know your bedtime scripts. What do you do? Is it bed, read? Is it shower, read, bed? Is it shower, we read, bed? Like these are scripts. I want to know if you're truly engaging this live to see what your scripts are. All right. Sometimes your script might be lunch, right? Every lunch, walk to the cafe, walk to the canteen or whatever it is, order a sandwich and chips, go take it back. Maybe a can of Coke or something. Take it back to my office. Eat at my desk all the time. All right. So if there's a script in there that you want to change or that you know of, you can drop those different behaviors into that format. All right. Let's start by saying an example, right? Say you want to eat healthier at lunch. You look at your lunch script. What do you do? Where can I make an edit so that sandwich, chips, and cookies become, for lack of a better, my brain isn't particularly working right now, but for lack of a salad, let's say salad and crackers and a banana, let's say, and an orange juice. Let's say that's the substitute, right? That way, you change the habit, but you keep the script. Your brain gets the benefit of maintaining that mostly automated script, and you can essentially just go, slide in that new habit under the radar. It's healthier food, more nutritious food. All right. That means you're losing weight. That means you're managing those menopausal symptoms far better. All right. But it's not easy. I do get that. It's pretty hard, in fact, and that's why myself and Viola do what we do, because we're the kind of the bridge that brings A and B together. So it's difficult. I get that. It is difficult. Sometimes it requires more of a drastic overhaul, and that's when you take a closer look of how the script got there in the first place. How did you create that script in the first place? Because they generally emerge out of a behavior chain, and the behavior chain is a series of events that led to the creation of the script that contains habits. So deconstruct that behavior chain. Where did your script get started? And these behavior chains, they can help you take a script off of autopilot, make it conscious again, which makes it a lot easier to edit if you're conscious, if you're thinking about it. So the process of, the behavior chain is that sort of process of script or habit formation, and every behavior chain starts with a trigger. All right. Now that trigger leads to, thoughts, feelings, and then those lead to action. That leads to, so that action then leads to an outcome, or, a consequence, whatever. And then over time, the outcome is, you know, let's say the outcome's positive. Lead the formation of scripts, fantastic. You're doing well, you're losing weight. If it's negative, it's the opposite, right? So the behavior chain looks like trigger equals your thoughts, your feelings. And that your thoughts and feelings equal your action. Your action equals your outcomes. Your outcomes equals your script or habit. So those triggers are key because every behavior chain begins with that trigger. And these habits are adaptive, they're changeable. And the triggers are what habits are adapting to. They can cause you to do beneficial things. They can cause you to do neutral things. They can cause you to do detrimental things. And so many types of triggers that we have in our lives that can kick off behavior chains. Environmental triggers, like a box of, someone's bought in a box of croissants at work. You can see it from your workstation, you're just looking at it, or they put it on your desk, even worse. There's social triggers, your friends, oh, come on, just let's go happy hour, let's not go to the gym today. There's time triggers, reaching for a snack at 3 p.m. I've already mentioned something similar. There's biological triggers, and that's like sugar cravings. When you, for example, let's say you've completely missed a meal by accident, sugar craving. You have a super low calorie meal and then you get a sugar craving or something like that. It's a biological trigger. There's mental triggers, the urge to eat when you're stressed. There's emotional triggers, that ice cream that I talked about. There's a lot, right? And there is another common trigger is what other people are doing. People forget about this. People tend to eat. There's some really interesting data that people tend to eat at the same speed and the same amount as people they're eating with. Viola says this to me all the time. I'm super quick eater. And she says to me, slow down, because she finds herself trying to wolf it down as well at the same pace. There's different examples of this. People dress in ways that others in their kind of group dress. Now, I don't dress the same as Viola, but like my friends would dress the same, right? And your friends would dress similar to you. Or generally speaking, you'd mimic each other's body language. People are together, behaviors start to sync up. Sometimes the mannerisms and the way that you move, they sync up. And that's because, you might not have chosen to do those things on your own, but we want to fit in. Otherwise, if we don't fit in, biologically speaking, that thinks that we're going to get cast aside from the tribe, and we're pretty much dead. Back in the day, ancestrally speaking. And let's say we want to bond. We're social creatures. We want to get along in groups and want to feel connected with our friends and family and stuff. But sometimes we engage in unhealthy behaviors just to fit in. The others are eating fish and chips every night. Why can't I? You want to because you want to fit in. Doing what other people do makes us feel comfortable, makes us feel that we're in something together, But when those habits repeat over and over again, let's say it's chocolate and wine every night, they're going to become habits that have nothing to do with your own preferences. They're just habits shaped by what other people are doing rather than what you want to be doing. You can't help what other people are doing. It's a natural behavior that's meant to keep us safety, meant to give us, we were safety in numbers back when we were cavemen and women, and that was necessary survival. But our brain doesn't know that. That norm matching is normal and it's benign usually, until it isn't. Until you start to take on those habits and you're 20 kilos overweight, you're 3 stone overweight. And you think, oh, it's just harmless, like, but over the long term, those habits have ingrained, and ultimately, it's it's damaging, health damaging to your self confidence, your mental health. Little things like your boss ordering a pizza for everybody. You're like, oh, I'll eat it, even though I got my lunch here, a healthy lunch. You know, if you're about to go to the gym with a friend and you're on the way there and they cancel on you, you're like, oh, I didn't want to go anyway. So you don't go. Or someone in your family stays up late watching a movie on a weekday, so you watch it even though you got to get up early. Things like this. You go to a restaurant to meet friends and everybody's having these bloody massive margaritas or, these cocktails that are full of sugar. So you have one too. I was gonna have a, a slimline tonic, but I'll have one of them. These are things that are happening. And you find yourself going along to these things, going along with the flow. You're like, yeah, even though you don't necessarily agree with what, the pizza or the margarita or the tonic, whatever it is, you find yourself going along. You don't really agree with that view, of what you want to do. You want to eat healthy, it stresses you out. And these are examples of scripts that if you do regularly, they are causing you to engage in habits you might not want for yourself. And I want you to see if you can notice next time that you go along with something you wouldn't have done on your own. All right, come back when that happens. Come back and comment in this comment box, because ask yourself, do I really want to be doing this thing? Right, because these thoughts and feelings, what's going to happen? That trigger will trigger a thought. That thought will trigger an action. All right, next thing that happens is that behavior chain comes in. All right, these thoughts and these feelings are reactions to the influence of the trigger. They might be pretty simple, they might be emotionally charged, but they lead to you doing something, whether it's reaching for the chocolate bar or saying, no, I'm actually going to go for a salad. There's still an action there, right? Let's say work-wise, right? Let's make it. So imagine that you're really pressed for time. You've got some work that you're kind of cranking on with, and you miss a deadline. All right, really hard to meet that deadline. You just missed it just slightly, maybe a day or so over. You're tired. You're feeling insecure because you're like, I'm failure. I couldn't do it. You've got no bandwidth left. Your brain's absolutely shot. But you plan to cook a healthy dinner that night. When you get home, it's too exhausting, right? You're not meeting, the deadline of work was your trigger. It made you feel defeated. It made you think, I don't want to cook a healthy meal. I want comfort food. I want it fast. I want it right now. All right. This is what you actually do in response to the thoughts and feelings caused by the trigger. In that example, the action is the ordering a takeout instead of cooking. We know the trigger now. Sometimes an action almost seems to happen before the thought. That's where it gets tricky. You're at the party, and if I'm chatting, if we're chatting to you and we've planned out this, the plan for the party because we want you to enjoy it. And you're like, yeah, okay, we'll have this much alcohol, this, and this, but we'll eat beforehand, so we won't eat too much. And then this server comes past with some appetizers, and you're like, oh man, yeah, I know I skipped lunch I had a light lunch, but I'm still quite a bit peckish. So you grab I don't know what it is, chicken skewer or a vol au vent or something like that, and down the hatch it goes. And before your brain has a chance to register, hey, we're going to eat in like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you've got a handful of crisps in the basket. You've got a bread, you've got this, you got a bit of cake. You find yourself plugging, like chucking money into the vending machine to get some food. You're like, what am I doing? Like, those thoughts like can be kind of really fast in response to those triggers that you weren't prepared for. Bam, you acted. You know, so you got the action, and then you got the outcome, and the outcome is that kind of next link in that behavior chain. Outcomes are the result of outcome is the result of the actions that were the result of the thoughts and the feelings that were the result of the trigger. So these outcomes can be positive, they can be negative, they can be instrumental, whether you take action on it to become that will eventually become a habit. And they could be physiological, it could be physical, let's say, two slices of pizza, you're fine. You just gorge yourself on a third one, you're feeling sick. Psychological could be, I want to take a day off because I worked really hard today. It could be emotional. I felt sad. That peanut butter ice cream was looking at me, so it made me feel better. Like all of these outcomes. Well, the outcomes of those action were reinforcing because they had that positive outcome for you anyway. You made you feel better. All because, let's say, it was that deadline trigger, you missed the deadline, all because you didn't get that deadline thing in time, let's say. So whenever that happens again, you encounter that trigger and then you repeat those behaviors. And if the outcome of, let's say, the outcomes of your actions were punishing, let's say it's chocolate, let's say it's sweet, let's say it's smoking, let's say it's alcohol, then they've had a negative outcome for you. And it's going to make you feel bad, cause you to get criticized. You less, it's a minefield out there, and I think that behavior change forged, to be honest. I think that, the thought and the feeling part can change and weaken or reinforce the chain, depending on what the outcomes were, right? So next time you might think, right, last time I was stressed, I ate ice cream. It made me feel so much better. I want to feel better again. That's what you might think. But a more punishing consequence would have been different, right? When you think about it, the heartburn from that third slice of pizza that I had kept me up all night. I think I'll just make the healthy meal that I planned this time. So your thoughts and feelings might not necessarily be that conscious, to be honest. But if that ice cream was rewarding last time, you might feel an urge to have a craving, to have it again, even without thinking, why am I wanting this? And that's because the brain has started to automate that behavior. Started to automate it. This is where, it gets hard to break. It gets hard to break. If the pizza wasn't so delicious, although let's be honest, pizza's bloody darn good. The next time you think of pizza, your response might be like, don't really fancy it, or, more so than, fuck, I love a pizza, because it gives you heartburn. Or you might say to yourself, oh, well, let me just look for somewhere else I can order from because that one was a bit dodgy, And if you like, Viola myself, and we bet you are, you're already aware that outcomes are often, some of them positive, some of them negative, all the spectrum we have. If the relief of ordering, pizza outweighed the heartburn that you had that day, you're going to probably order it again next time. If the ice cream was amazing in the moment, but you hated how it bloated you out, how you felt the next morning, maybe gassy, then the bloating might win. I don't want that again. Maybe it was in the toilet all night. Whether a habit forms or not becomes a sort of contest between, like, which is going to win. Is the negative or the positive outcome going to win? For a lot of us, the treats win, of course, especially they win over the downsides, especially if the downsides are long term, and it's nothing to do with your willpower. It's nothing to do with, your inherently flawed moral compass or anything like that, because it's not true. I think it's just that brains are really good at convincing ourselves, and I've been guilty of this before, and I'm still guilty of this. Our brains convince ourselves that, you know, it's really good for you. That is, it feels good for. It's reducing your stress in that moment. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you might selectively forget the more negative outcomes as you know, especially when it comes to a behavior like that, because you get more of the good stuff without the consequence, mental consequence. You know, that sugar rush. If it's an ice cream or if it's the pizza, that taste sensation is a nice relief from that stress, or even not a nice relief from not having to cook dinner is going to override the regret about not sticking to your nutrition plan. You know, when your brain decides an action was worth taking, you start to repeat that action. A script gets written, habit is born. If it's Friday night and you're ordering pizza, when you actually, whether you want pizza or not, if work's done, you join, instead of going to the gym or going for your walk, you get your head to go and happy hour or whatever it is. You're writing a script. The habits that are contained within that, whether if it's pizza, ordering the pizza, drinking with your friends, eating the ice cream, whatever, becomes more and more ingrained the longer you rehearse it. It's important to understand this. Really important. And also, it's important to understand that none of the things that you're doing are, that I'm talking about, ice cream, whatever, your specific stuff, are not bad things in and of themselves. There's nothing wrong with pizza. There's nothing wrong with ice cream. There's nothing wrong with cocktails with your friends or takeout. Nothing inherently wrong with not going to the gym or going for your walk once a week. Nothing wrong with staying up late, drinking so much coffee. Well, there is something wrong with that. Will impact your sleep and your hormone management, therefore your mood management. But a lot of these scripts, they're beneficial for us. If it's Saturday, you go for a hike with the family, you go for a big walk. I don't know what you do. If it's a weekday morning, then you might take 5 minutes to meditate. If it's 11 p.m., you go to bed. These are scripts that are beneficial generally, right? There's something wrong with you with feeling like your habits are happening to you or beyond your control. That's what we need to address. The automation of habits is great for saving energy. It's fantastic, but not for manipulating you to do things that you don't want to do. You have the power to change anything in your life if you want to change it. You just have to make the unconscious conscious again. And this is the secret to breaking a habit. And what's the secret to creating a new habit? It's making the conscious unconscious or automated. Really, really important. All right, I'm just going to check the chat out. Hey, Therese. Hey, Tina. Hey, Joe. How you going? Yes, we can change. Oh, love this. Hey, Kathy. Yes, we can change. I'm losing weight by walking to reduce stress. Awesome work. This is interesting. My script issue is when I come home from work, I make a cuppa and eat a couple of biscuits every day. So how do you plan on rectifying that, Joe? Keen. Chocolate Tim Tams. I see. Therese, I see on your food diary. Don't worry about that. Hi, my issue. Hey, Karen, how are you? It's been a long time since I've seen you on a live. Hey, my issue at the moment is I'm not hungry, but I'm eating for the sake of eating just because I know it's in the cupboard fridge. Yeah, look for the trigger. You've got to look for the trigger there. Is the trigger when you come home from work, sit down on the couch? Is the trigger when you come home from work, get a drink, and then it's next to the food? Like, identify that trigger first before you try and change this up. I think that's the biggest thing that I'd say to that. Just going to see if there's any other questions. If not, I'll go. And for MYM Club ladies, this will be the next talk on this. We're going to continue this in sort of a series. Will be inside the NYM club. I just couldn't get it to link inside that private group. So I had to do it on the public page. Technology. It's the laptop. It's a new laptop, and I just couldn't get it to work. Okay. Awesome. Cool beans. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds or so. If anybody wants to ask any questions, please feel free to do so now. And if not, no worries. I think that's it, isn't it? Just to check in. No worries, Sarah. You're welcome. Well, no other questions. That's lovely. Yeah, you're welcome, Sarah. If there's any sort of if you're taking value from this live, just comment value below, share it with your friends, or tag someone you think can benefit from this. If they're saying, "Oh, just need to change my habits because I haven't been able to lose weight," give them an insight, give them some help, tag them in this video because it really helps them. Plus, it shows this video to more people. Right, it shows this video to more people like you. They're like, "Oh, Kathy, Joe, and Therese, and Karen, and Sarah love this. Tina loves this." Let's look for people like that because obviously that's the type of people that they're speaking to. Dean's speaking to. So, all right, I'm going to let you go. You've been fantastic. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon. Have a fantastic and